Hello there, people of the internet. So I had quite the experience probably about, I don't know, a month and a half ago or so, right? I was down at the gun store that we have here in my hometown, and, well, I was down there to pick up some magazines. See, I only have, I don't know, 5 or 6 magazines for the 1911, and I figured, since I was passing by there anyway, stop in, see what they have. I've been meaning to get more mags for my 1911s, and I plan on getting more 1911s as well for the YouTube channel here. If you want to help out with that, then hey, Patreon and Utreon links are below. That will definitely help me make content if you want to help support my work. But I was at this local gun store, and I go over to their magazine section, and of course, because 1911 mags are very common, they have themselves a selection of them. So I start looking through them, seeing what they have. I try to go for like used GI surplus magazines because those tend to work really well. But this is a gun store that doesn't have surplus, and they have like a bunch of new stuff. So I was like, all right, fine, I'll just grab some aftermarket mags for my 1911. And while I was looking through them, I had this older gentleman walk up to me, and he asked what I was looking for. He didn't work there at the store. I assume that he was just a regular and wanted to help me find what I was looking for. And I was like, all right, well, this connoisseur here can help me find what I'm looking for. So I was like, all right, I'm just looking for some 1911 mags. And he was like, all right, let's see what we can find for you here, because their magazine section was very disorganized. So he actually helped me look for a 1911 magazine. He was like, they're right here. And he grabbed me a Rock Island Armory 1911 magazine that was in the package. And I was like, all right, sweet. I'm going to get like 5 of these. And he was like, that's the only 1911 Rock Island 1911 magazine here. I'm like, that's all right. What other brands do they have here? I'll just grab something that's, aftermarket, that's not from a reputable source, with lack of better terminology here. And this elderly gentleman was like, nah, you don't want to do that. And I was like, yeah, I kind of do. That's why I'm here. I'm here to pick up a bunch of 1911 magazines for running my 1911s. And he was like, nah, you don't want to get aftermarket mags. You want to stick with factory mags. And I'm like, okay, well, if there were factory mags here, I would absolutely, get some factory mags, but I'm just going to get what is available for me right here. They're even significantly cheaper than the Rock Island. I think that they had like K-mags, and they had a different variety, like different brand variety there, and I really didn't care which ones I grabbed. Typically with modern manufacturing, they're going to work all right-ish. But this elderly gentleman, like as I was insisting on getting some aftermarket mags for my 1911, he like started to get irate. He started to get very upset at the fact that I was willing to get aftermarket mags instead of holding out for factory mags. And I mean, it got to the point to where this elderly gentleman was basically stopping me from getting these magazines. And yeah, that was quite the experience. I still got those magazines. I was like, hey, you got to calm down. I'm not going to go in verbatim of what actually happened there, but it was quite the experience. And I ended up picking up a bunch of magazines for my 1911, and a lot of them were aftermarket, not factory, not from a reputable factory. But one of the points that he made out was that you want to spend the money on a magazine that you know is going to be reliable, rather than buying ones that are not going to be reliable. And I was like, well, we don't know whether or not these are going to be reliable. And that stems to this conversation that I'll have here in this video. If you are going to use something like for self-defense, if you're going to bet your life on something, then you probably should go with high quality factory magazines. Like for example, if you have like a Glock 19 or something, then you should probably get like Glock brand magazines for that Glock 19 to defend yourself with, to protect your life, your liberty, your family's lives, protect everything. If you're going to use that to protect yourself, you should get like on brand factory magazines for the Glock, because that is a good company, and those magazines are going to work no matter what, versus getting something off-brand for a couple dollars less that may or may not work. It might be shoddy. Now, that being said, if you are doing what I do, making videos on a range, and you spend some less money. If you spend less money on some aftermarket magazines with the risk of inducing a malfunction every now and then that's fine. On a range setting, making YouTube videos, it doesn't matter if you decide to spend less money on something that might not function as well, like for example aftermarket magazines. If I fire off like 100 rounds here and I get 1 or 2 malfunctions, that's not a big deal. I'll just rack the slide and continue to go. Of course, 1911s are notorious for not malfunctioning very well with anything besides ball ammunition, so I might see some malfunctions with the aftermarket magazines that I have picked up, but we won't know that, and that brings me to my next point. If you do have aftermarket magazines, then use them, head out to the range, and figure out which magazines do and do not work. I have quite a few magazines, like aftermarket magazines or like old magazines, that I just kind of keep in this little box because I know that they don't work. I'll mark them with a little X using a Sharpie, assuming that they're not something that's historically collectible. And what I'll do is I'll toss them into that box, and I will know that this particular magazine does not work very well. And sometimes I'll actually purposefully grab one of those magazines whenever I'm teaching somebody on how to shoot. Whenever they're out here shooting, it will, cause a malfunction, because that's just what those mags do. And I'll teach them how to clear that malfunction. But if you're gonna bet your life on it, and it's an aftermarket anything, and you don't necessarily know a lot about who manufactured it, where it came from, how good of a manufacturing process went into that mag, if there's factors that you don't know about it, then take it out to the range and run the magazine several times and see if you get any malfunctions, and just make sure that it is functional. That would be my recommendation. If it's an aftermarket mag, there's very good aftermarket mags out there. And if you manage to get yourself one that runs well, and you're willing to bet your life on it, then hey, by all means, go ahead and use that if you don't want to shell out the money for factory mags. But this is just a very interesting experience with this elderly gentleman that, he got irate, red-faced, talking loudly to me, irate, that I was there buying aftermarket mags for my 1911. Speaking of aftermarket mags, let's go ahead and run a couple of rounds through this one. I'm just gonna send some lead down at our steel. I don't like the beaver tail on this 1911 A1 by T-Sauce, because it does give you hammer bite from time to time. And it's less of the beaver tail, more of the profile of the hammer. It is different than the original 1911 A1s. And it extends just far enough to give you hammer bite if you're not careful. Oh God, I forgot how much the 45 ACP recoils and how much it slaps into its target. Ow, that kind of hurts. Ow, now I'm starting to anticipate recoil. Alright, I gotta calm down here. There we go. Damn, this is an accurate 1911. Alright. 45 ACP out of this particular 1911. This particular 1911 is just very jumpy. And I did get a little bit of hammer bite, but it wasn't bad. I find that with my normal handgun grip with this 1911, you can see how my flesh just kind of hops up over the beaver tail right there, and whenever the hammer comes down, it smacks into my flesh there. So I actually have to adjust my grip, and what I'll do is I'll put the beaver tail right on my bone right there, and that is why the recoil is so bad on this gun, because I'm smacking bone instead of absorbing into my flesh. But it does help preventing the hammer bite with the beaver tail right here, because as you can see, my flesh is not pressed up on the beaver tail. And that's why recoil is so harsh, just because of my particular grip that I use. You know, originally, whenever I had made my video on this, I had talked about how I didn't like the plastic grips on this thing. I got all kinds of comments talking about how the plastic grips on 1911 A1s, you know, they also had plastic grips. Anyone who's ever felt the genuine Bakelite grips of a true 1911 A1 and then felt this feels like melted down Tupperware, whereas the other, true 1911 Bakelite grips actually feel pretty damn good. I'd rather have wood grips on this thing than this Tupperware plastic. I get that they're both plastic, but not all plastic is the same. Well, thank you for indulging in my story. It was very interesting, and I did only put a couple of rounds through this magazine, but hey, those cycled and functioned well enough for me to enjoy my 1911 at this range and make my YouTube video. So yeah, this right here, saving this couple of dollars on this magazine, it was worth it because I managed to make a video, and I imagine that I will probably make more in the future. So thanks for watching, folks. If you want to see those videos, then subscribe to the channel, like the video if you like the video, description down below, link to all sorts of stuff, go check it out. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. I'm going to go ahead and make more videos because I have the time and means to do so.
Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. The poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.